talking a little bit about ViSTA and sharing ViSTA today. It'll be about 15 minutes of kind of presentation, a bit of tour of the module itself, and then 15 or 20 minutes of questions if you have any. So we're about 40 to 45 minutes in length today. We are going to archive this session, and it will be available in the future. So, okay. Again, just let us know if the sound is unclear of poor quality. All right, the ViSTA webinar. The purposes, we have two. One is just to introduce you to the features and content of ViSTA, and we chose the plants module for this first webinar. We're not going to dig deeply into the content. Again, it's more of showing the features, the nuts and bolts, if you will, of ViSTA that are, in a sense, common across all 5 modules. And then to really get excited about possibly using ViSTA with teachers, both pre-service and in-service. So first off, what is ViSTA? It stands for Video Cases for Science Teaching Analysis. And as you know, it's just an online education professional development modules for really K-8 teachers. We do have a videotape, video cases of 8th grade teachers. So again, this could be used K-8. It's made up of 5 different modules: plants, which we'll be looking at today, electricity, water cycle, force and motion. And those first 4 that I just named really have a focus on content and pedagogy. So those are both in the foreground. But then there's also an inquiry module, which content is more in the background and pedagogy is more in the foreground. So these are the 5 modules that make up ViSTA. Each ViSTA module includes video cases, and they're different from a video clip. Video cases include lesson videos, videos of teacher and student interviews. They include student work, and when we talk about student work, it's in-classroom work, actually videotapes of students working in a classroom. It also includes actual student artifacts. Maybe if it's a notebook entry, if it's a worksheet that they're doing. It actually includes that as part of the video case. Also with student pretests and teacher lesson plans as well. So video case is much more dynamic, rich compared to just a video clip. And another piece is that teachers' interactions with the video cases, so participants' use, are guided and structured by tasks and by, again, the facilitators or the course instructors. So it isn't just a video case. They could be used as a standalone, but they're really structured and scaffolded with questions that help guide participant thinking and participant interaction. One thing about the ViSTA module, and I won't go deeply into this, we've actually included a paper. If you look down to the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there's a files pod, and it has a ViSTA, a NARS 2010. That actually is a NARS paper that you can read that really digs into the research behind ViSTA and also the research that was done on ViSTA with students. As you read the module, or as you read the paper, you'll find out that ViSTA was originally developed for pre-service teacher education. As we then fully developed ViSTA, we found professional development providers, specifically in-service teacher educators, became very interested in ViSTA as well. The idea is that kind of lay the foundation for ViSTA, the content, digging into research. Science content is important, so we've included science content focus in really all 5 modules and really emphasized it in the first 4 in those topics: plants, water cycle, force and motion, and electricity. We also included, though, pedagogical content knowledge. And we have 2 lenses. One is called a student thinking lens, and the other is called a science content storyline lens. The student thinking lens and the strategies within the lens actually come out of the extant research base and literature in science and in education in general. The science content storyline lens, again, has at its foundation research, literature, existing literature in education, but also it was drawn from the TIMSS study. Kathy Roth, who was the lead principal investigator in developing ViSTA, she was also the lead scientist as part of the TIMSS project, which was the international study. They actually went into classrooms and videotaped teachers teaching. The modules also have a theoretical base, situated cognition, cognitive apprenticeship, and then conceptual change. The other piece that people are interested in is the module structure. It really is analysis of practice using structured video cases. What this allows participants to do is really slow down that teaching process. Instead of sitting watching teachers teaching live in a live scenario, having them videotaped, allowing to stop the action, really to focus in on what the teacher's doing and what students are thinking is really important. So that was actually one of the bases for analysis of practice using video cases. The ViSTA conceptual framework: what should teachers be analyzing as they look at video cases of science teaching, and what should be the content of this learning program? We're just not putting video cases in front of teachers and saying, hey, what do you notice? Because what we find and what research suggests with that type of approach, we really get teachers focusing on management concerns, what the kids are doing management-wise or behavioral-wise. So what we focus on, or what we have, are these two thinking lenses that I alluded to earlier. We have the student thinking lens and the science content storyline lens. Again, the foundation is existing research in science education and education community in general. With the science content storyline lens and the strategies that fall out underneath, these are really, again, based on existing science ed research and education research. Specifically, some of them are coming directly from that TIMSS study. Specifically, if you look down the list, under the science content storyline strategies, linking science content ideas and activities and linking content ideas to other content ideas, these come directly from that research, the TIMSS research study. We're going to actually jump into the module. I'm going to show you a bit of the plants module. Once I'm done kind of showing the plants module, we're going to definitely open this up for questions. So let me go ahead and switch things around. All right, I'm actually into the home page of the plants module. A couple things about navigation. If you'll notice on the left side of your screen, this is the main menu tree of the plants module. Within each of these, we call them folders, we have individual tasks. Again, to notice on the home page, this was supported by the National Science Foundation. Each module has basically or essentially this type of navigation. We have pre-tests and post-tests, and then in the middle we have kind of the content, the introduction to the modules, introduction to lesson analysis. We have content folders and then also application folders. Let's start with the introduction. So under the introduction, you have the main folder. You have a series of subfolders, so to speak. Talks about the objectives of ViSTA. And again, the objectives are really helping teachers analyze science teaching and learning through two lenses, the student thinking and science content storyline lens. They're learning how to make student thinking visible that helps teachers, help students create this coherent content storyline in their classrooms. And for this module in particular is to deepen their science content knowledge about plants. We also have a bit of information about the video cases, and specifically in plants. We have two teachers that are featured, Miss McLean and Miss Greenlees. You can actually meet the teachers, and it talks about their classroom, what grade level it is, where within the arc of lessons or sequence of lessons these video cases fall. We also have an introduction to lesson analysis, and this is a feature that makes ViSTA unique, because lesson analysis is, there's a specific protocol we follow. And I'm just clicking through, and one, we just have viewing basics. We really want teachers to look past those trivial things or things that bug you. We're really trying to focus on student thinking and how students are developing that science content storyline. We want teachers to avoid looking like saying, well, this doesn't look like my classroom, so none of it applies to me. We want teachers to get beyond that. Really, again, looking at student thinking and how they're developing the content storyline and how the teacher is helping support students in developing that storyline. We then have analysis basics. We want them to focus, again, on student thinking, content storyline. They're going to be coming up with claims. We have questions that we ask. Part of then answering the questions, it's coming up with a response or a claim. But we want teachers to really do more than just come up with a claim, but to think about, well, what's my evidence? So part of our analysis basic is having teachers look for evidence within a transcript. Part of a video case, we include transcripts for all videos. And then we encourage and require teachers to go back and say, okay, if that's your claim, what evidence do you have to support that? We also encourage teachers, when they're using the program, look at the video more than once. As we all know, teaching is a complex endeavor. We can actually miss key parts of teaching. And it could even be some nonverbal behaviors that the teacher is exhibiting or the student is exhibiting that will really help us with our claim. And the other piece is then consider explanations, consider alternative explanations and teaching strategies. So we can come up with maybe one claim with evidence, but are there others? What others can we think of? Let's develop a full picture of teaching and learning and what's going on in this scenario. So what I'm showing now is, in a sense, kind of a visual of lesson analysis. So we start with a question. You know, what are Josh's ideas about how plants get their food? We ask then teachers to watch the video, use the transcript, and come up with a claim. Okay, what does Josh think? Where's the evidence within the transcript that he's thinking this? But also getting them to think of, well, what's an alternative? It might seem that Josh thinks that plants get their food from fertilizer, but as we actually really dig in and look at his thinking, he might also be thinking that they get their food from the ground. So this is lesson analysis and the protocol that's embedded within each ViSTA module. Back out of that. Okay. Also, as part of the introduction, we actually get students and teachers really thinking about what is this student thinking lens. And in order to dive into this student thinking lens and the strategies, we introduce the thinking lens with a reading. And something to know about, to highlight, if you'll notice all the yellow highlighted strategies, these are the strategies that are part of the plants module for the student thinking lens. Because we tried to keep the module at about 15 hours of, in a sense, contact time, like a course. We couldn't put all of the strategies in each module. So we had to make decisions. Okay, what strategies are we going to really highlight in this module? For this module, it's eliciting student ideas and predictions, asking probing questions, asking challenge questions, and then engaging students in communicating in scientific ways. Students will actually read the reading, and then they'll actually watch a video and view the transcript. As they read, they watch the video and view the transcript. For example, since this is student thinking, one of the tasks is to really dig into what Adam believes about plants and food. And notice, all of our video are embedded within that screen, and they're mobile media friendly, so they're iPad friendly, so teachers can do this on their iPads. But notice, here's my video, and down below I actually have questions that frame my task, that I come up with claims, evidence, and evidence for. Also, we have the transcript attached, so teachers can actually download this, they can print it off, or they can use it as an electronic copy. But again, this is where teachers pull that evidence. So as we're reading about the student thinking lens, we're also watching video and putting it within the context of student thinking or the context of the classroom. And then that's very similar to the science content storyline lens. They would do the reading of the science content storyline lens and then move into questions. So that's the introduction. As we move into some other folders, this actually gets into then the content of the plants module. And I'll just click on Food for Plants. Food for Plants focuses on photosynthesis. How do plants get their food? In each ViSTA module, we use a conceptual change approach. So what we want teachers to do is to think about, what do I know about this science content, and what do I still question? So notice, we start the Food for Plants module. The first task is to actually take a pretest that specifically looks at the content of Food for Plants. Leaves and tree roots, maple tree sap, and Food for Plants. So if I click on leaves and roots, it's just a question. Do leaves and roots depend on each other? Explain your reasoning. And then they can respond to this task. Food for plants. Again, which of the following are energy providing for plants? And they can respond. Not every pretest or assessment has questions. If you actually go up into the upper folder for pretest, they're actually looking at video of classroom teaching. So they actually take a pretest about food for plants, and then they do a content reading. Again, developing, one, the need to know after the pretest, and then reading about, well, food for plants. This is where we think not only can you use the reading, you could use classroom activities to really highlight the content within the unit. Once we develop that need to know, there's a bit of some content reading. We start looking, we introduce the student thinking strategy. And this one is asking, probe, and challenge questions. They look at what students are thinking. How do probe and challenge questions push student thinking? What additional probe and challenge questions could you use? And then we move into the science content storyline strategy and introduce that via reading and then actually video. When we're done with that photosynthesis, learning about photosynthesis, exploring this idea of photosynthesis and what kids think about it and how kids learn using these strategies in class, then the participants can actually take a pretest or a post-test. Moving on, seeds and growth. This is then focusing on plant development. Very much similar to food for plants. So they start with a pretest. They actually move into content about seeds and growth or plant development, and then move into student thinking, science content storyline strategies, which are different than the ones they worked with previously in food for plants. As they move through the content, thinking about the pedagogy, how this is challenging, revealing student thinking, helping students create or develop that science content storyline, we actually tie it back into inquiry. And with this one specifically, it focuses on the 5 essential features. We then ask teachers to then apply their knowledge to new situations, and then we move into the module, the overall post-test. So again, there was a lot there, but that's the flow of the modules. Now I just want to move into just briefly into a couple of interesting pieces you may want to use with your teachers. Each main folder has, each part of a main folder has a forum. For example, it looks this little icon for class discussion and food for plants. As an instructor, you may decide to use this, or if it were instructor or facilitator, they may decide to use a forum instead of what we have is more of a kind of a grading feature if it's used for a course, or where students submit assignments to a course instructor. So this forum actually allows people to dialogue concerning the different tasks we have. And as an instructor, I can force everyone to do it, or I can just allow people to subscribe to the forum if they want to. So that's something new we've actually added to the ViSTA modules. In the past, we've only had kind of set up on a course where tasks were submitted to an instructor. And I'll just click on this. This is actually tasks that, if you decide to set it up more as a course where teachers submit each task to an instructor, I can actually then run it more of a course where teachers are submitting directly to me. The only issue with that is that other students in that group or other teachers within that ViSTA module can't see what others have said. Only the instructor can. So that's why we've actually added a forum as part of the ViSTA modules. So we wanted to add some flexibility. If you're using ViSTA as part of a course, there's more of a course feature. If you're really using ViSTA as somewhat maybe a PLC, where you've got a small group of teachers interacting, maybe in different school buildings, they could actually use the forum feature. So they can see, they can kind of dialogue and talk back and forth. The last piece that I just want to show before we open this up for questions, there are, in a sense, when you sign up for ViSTA, there are 2 modules that you'll be receiving if you're, again, the course instructor. The one that you do all of the work in, where students can submit their tasks, where they actually use the class discussion or forum, is within this module. We call this kind of the student module. You'll also receive an instructor module. And let me move out to the instructor module. So here's plants. This is the student module that I just showed you. The instructor module is just, in a sense, this is like the teacher guide or the teacher edition of a textbook. It looks the same as the student edition, where you would do all of the work, where the students will submit tasks, where you view submitted tasks by students, but it also includes an instructor guide. So here we now have plant module goals. If we click onto the introduction, for each task, we've actually included the goal, we try to frame it, what came before this task, what comes after. We've also included then a teaching strategy. If you want some ideas on how you might use this with a group of teachers, maybe if it's set up for a course, we actually gave you some ideas. And again, this is geared toward if you're using it as a course. But what I would encourage people to do, even if you're using this with PLCs or professional learning communities or teacher teams, you could also use this, the facilitator could also use this to structure that time together. And again, we try to structure it as what one could be talking about with face-to-face meeting time, as opposed what one might do as far as homework. And for this one, we don't have actually homework or non-face-to-face time. We just have what we might do when we're sitting face-to-face. So that's the main difference between kind of the ViSTA student module, where all of the work in a sense is done, where participants submit their responses, where the facilitator actually goes and looks for those submitted responses. Whereas the instructor guide, the only difference is it has that nice kind of teaching guide on the side. And when you sign up for ViSTA, you would actually get both. So, okay. Are there questions? We're going to kind of open up the floor for questions. So are there questions that people have concerning ViSTA? If you would use this protocol, just go ahead and type it on the chat feature as part of Adobe Acrobat, and then we can answer your questions accordingly. Okay. We have the question, I signed up for a trial but couldn't seem to get access to the module. Thoughts? Okay. I have my tech team here, so they can give some thoughts. We're actually looking, Mary, we're actually seeing if we have you registered. A couple things. At the end of the webcast, I'll actually put up contact information. And one of those would be to contact Dana Garland. Will actually help with that. But also, we have our tech team. They can actually get back to you as well. Do we have other questions? We'll make sure you get access, Mary. Yeah, as you can see, the question, so if I'm understanding correctly, I'm using this with in-service teachers. We could use this a couple of different ways, either in person, watching the modules together, or online. Example, people watch videos on their own time and then use the forum for this discussion. Is this correct? Absolutely. We tried to make this as flexible as possible. Originally, we didn't have the forum, so it was more of a course feature where people might watch the videos, you know, on their off time, but then they come together as a group and they would discuss the videos as a group. Now with the forum, it could be somewhat facilitated online, or having that discussion online between a group of teachers. You know, coming from a PD background, the only difficulty that might be just having it entirely online is that then there wouldn't maybe be a facilitator facilitating some of the conversation, or we didn't build in that structure. So it might be a little more work on the part of the facilitator if you're using it purely online and then with the forum. But no, Absolutely, it can be used purely online or with a kind of a hybrid model of face-to-face and then some online. Other questions? I'm going to actually, I'll put up some contact information. So if you do have some questions, you can actually contact me or Dana Garland. Let me pull this up. If you have more information concerning registration, for example, if you're having difficulty registering, maybe we give a 2-week trial for viewing the ViSTA modules, and maybe that's expired. We'd be happy to extend that time for a small amount of time, maybe a week again. Please contact Dana Garland, and I give her mail address there. If you're interested in professional development for ViSTA providers, contact me. Kind of the goal is we priced ViSTA relatively cheap, $15 per person. We now have site licensing options also that actually extend a full year, so you might be interested in those. But we tried to keep the cost of ViSTA relatively low. It's really covering our development costs or our support costs. So our intent was we would really like to work with PD providers who are rolling out ViSTA within your school districts. So if you're interested in providers, professional development for ViSTA providers, please go ahead and drop me an email at pnumadal@bscs.org. If there are no other questions, again, feel free to contact me or contact Dana, and we look forward to talking with you in the future. Oh, it looks like we have. Thanks. If you do have questions, we can hang around for a bit of time. I have a little bit of time here. I have a few minutes. What we can do is we can even chat over the phone if that's